ladies. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial business owner, the founder of Shalo Glow LLC, an all-natural skincare company that helps you glow from head to toe. I am a champion for your daily self-care, business care, and intentional wellness.
Hey, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, published author, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Together, we are Women Connected in Wisdom, a podcast grounded in the 8 dimensions of wellness, and the co-founders of Women Connected in Wisdom community.
Yeah, we like to get together every week for intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. Like, how do we do this?
Questions that need answers.
Right?
Yeah.
As we get started today, I want to give a shout out to my friend Jessica, who's down in Miami, Florida. We were on a conversation this morning, and she was telling me that she loves how we dance it in and our energy around different topics. So if Jessica is listening today, hey, Jessica, so glad that you're a part of Women Connected in Wisdom.
So glad. And you asked me how I've been doing. That's really what it's been this past week, right? The past 2 weeks have been crazy, Christine, with the amount of things to deal with, right? And then we had the opening of the community on Sunday, and Brandy shares that she listened to our podcast to teach herself how to talk again. And that when she was younger, she had had another situation in 2017, and this podcast has helped her. So getting that feedback, hearing about Jessica in Miami, loving our dances. And I'm like, what else do I do? Do we need to do this? And Jessica's like, yes. So thank you so much, ladies. Yes.
Well, and just, in Interplay, we have a saying about never underestimate the body's need for affirmation or reassurance. Right?
Okay.
So, sometimes we're in such an individualistic culture here in the United States, right? Like, and that whole pull yourself up by the bootstraps mentality. Bootstraps, not bootstraps. Let me be clear. I am a Texas girl.
They do look like strips.
They are
little strips on the side. Yeah.
Now I've completely confused myself. But that whole thing that we forget, like, at our core, people want to be loved and accepted.
Yeah.
And so just checking in with each other, y'all, because there's been a lot lately. There's been a lot in the news. There's been a lot personally. We were just doing a coffee and chat with a future guest who y'all are going to love. And she's a therapist, and she does, I noticed, I don't know if you caught it, she does the same thing I do. Like when she pays attention to when her clients come in and when there's a theme, like it's been a particularly hard day or it's been a particular, because that often helps me. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm just off. Well, often like
it was,
every 10 people I met with that day were off. So it's yes to the individual, but also to the big body, right? To the energy of the big body and community and the world and how all that works together. So I think about that right before we got on. We got the news that Tina Turner has passed away.
Yes, and rest in peace, Tina Turner.
Rest in peace. And just so grateful for her music and her style and her energy and her activism. She was an unintentional advocate for women getting out of domestic violence. When her book came out and when she really was authentic and talked about a 14-year abusive relationship. And how when she got out of that relationship, she was financially decimated, which a lot of women are when they're coming through divorce or abusive relationships. And that's one piece sometimes of why women stay longer, because of the way our systems are set up and the way that, it's really hard when you're trying to break free of something like that. And so with her book and her public persona, sharing that and being authentic, I know that she impacted and changed a lot of lives.
Absolutely. And that's what I was going to say, her bravery. It's not easy to leave a situation like that. And not only did she leave, but everybody knows who this person is, who this person was to her. And that's a huge platform. So, I would think about the compound difficulties of that. And recently I watched one of the documentaries on her life, and she was like, I've moved past it. I just want other people to move past it. I want to live my life. And I hope that she was able to do that and thoroughly enjoy her time after all the hard work that she had put in her career.
Right. Well, yeah. And she moved to Switzerland and right. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
So much. And I think about the energy, right? The bravery for the situation, the energy for the performance. I think about lifelong fitness. I'm like, I want my thighs to be
right. I think about her dancing in those heels.
Yes.
I was always like, even when I was younger, I couldn't do that. I'm like, good gravy. That's some talent.
Hey, and let's give some credit for the fact that this camera couldn't keep up with her. I saw this video and the camera was like, it was off and she was moving on the stage. So yeah, I love it. And I hope that she thoroughly enjoyed her life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just lifting that queen up because she was.
And we're talking about occupational wellness today. And that's definitely what I think about when I think about working a job in the city every night and day, right? What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Is occupational wellness. And what does that look like? You might think this person performing is having a great life and, you want to be like them, but do you? Is that really, be careful what you ask for, right? What would it look like for you to have occupational wellness instead of looking at this other person that's far away and comparing what can we really do in our life to get there?
Right. Will you give our listeners the definition of occupational wellness?
Absolutely. So, and again, this is from the Women Connected in Wisdom glossary, right? Occupational wellness represents living in the purpose, passion, and productivity in one's chosen profession. This includes work-life balance, as a fulfilling and productive professional life is fitting to weave together with a healthy personal life.
I love it.
Yeah. And for me right now, I'm thinking about the personal and professional. Coming over into the businesses has been beautiful. And I love how if I feel like I need time, like we said, the energy's been, and sometimes you might feel like the energy's been off or a lot of stuff is going on. In that moment, it's not, all this stuff is working against me. That's not how I think, right? In an abundance mindset, I'm like, okay, these things are working for me. What's the lesson? But I love the freedom to be able to stop. Let me stop for a second. If I feel like I'm kind of off, not only take a deep breath and center in that moment, but maybe I just need to stop for the day, and I have the freedom to be able to say that.
Absolutely. I think that, that word balance is always a little tricky sometimes. Because when I think about solopreneurs and entrepreneurs I know, and especially when they're women, it's kind of laughable, right? Unless because of how much there is to do, right? But yes, to taking a break. Yes, to resting. I was reading the Manifesto on Rest. Let me pull up her name because it goes with occupational wellness. It goes with what we're talking about. And it's the woman who did the NAP ministry, Tricia. Hang on. Tricia Hersey, I think is how you say her last name. Hersey. And she is the founder of the NAP ministry. And her latest book is called Rest is Resistance, a Manifesto. And I was listening to it on the way home from the alternate routes weekend that I ended up driving to instead of flying to. So it was a pretty long haul that I was like, oh, great. I've got tons of audiobooks I want to catch up with, right, on my list.
Yeah.
But this one was all about resting and taking a moment and being tired. So I started getting tired as I was listening to her book. So I had to stop and pop over to something else. But the United States especially, and other countries, but the United States especially is set up for people to work. Right now, with this whole debt ceiling crisis, they're contemplating raising Social Security age to be in the 70s. And, I know a lot of really cool 70 and 80-year-olds. So that's not the issue. But it is that culture of not resting, right? It's that culture of when do you get to pause? And if you're lucky, you have 2 weeks of vacation a year, right? But a lot of people don't. I don't know the statistics on that right now.
That's a great question. And it's still not long enough. 2 weeks is not long enough. So I want to, if we can, I want to pause real quick because I think you said something huge, right? You said you were listening to this audiobook and it made you feel a certain way and you switched to something else. I think that's huge in occupational wellness. What did you switch to? What was the difference for you?
Oh, that's a good question. What did I pop over to? Oh, you know what I switched to? Because I was taking a restroom break, and so the radio came on first, and it was NPR, and it was talking about our brains, and it was talking about flooding or fueling. I believe that's what they were. I wrote it down because I want to go back and listen to the whole episode because I had missed some of it. And it was talking about how we influence people and the way that works. So what I switched to was something that got me in my brain, right? Because this Rest is the Manifesto had me thinking about my body. It had me think which things I love, things I teach. But when you are really tired, sometimes it's hard to drop down into that. And I think at this point, I was probably maybe 4 hours into a road trip. So, and trying to get home in time for our community lunch. So I think when I needed to get back, like,
into your head, which is not usually what we say.
Right? But to keep myself alert, that in the ice water, right? It had me thinking, it really did have me thinking about occupational wellness because I was thinking about what they were saying in regards to our business and what, how you start like, how can I apply that info, right? So that's thanks for that question. I hadn't really thought about it.
And of course, and we talked about habit stacking, right? When we were talking about heart math, and that's the way I've been thinking about it since then. And since this year, March, when I started doing my unofficial research, right, on women's history and women working, I've been talking about Playboy and all this stuff, right? I have to stack it. I have to stack it with laughter. This past week, I watched Zarna, this female Indian comedian. Hilarious. She was talking about, guess what she was talking about, Christine?
Oh, tell me.
Being a loudmouth American woman that uses her voice and getting paid for it. I said, that's my type of woman. So shout out to Zarna, right?
How do you spell her name?
Zarna.
All right.
Yeah.
And where was her special at?
I believe it was on Hulu.
Okay. Cool.
Yes. And I loved it. It was relevant. The comedians do a great job. As a group of speakers, they do a great job at bringing up current events in a way that's, I was going to say palatable, right? In a way that people can receive it in an easy way. I loved how she brought her family on at the end of it. Usually we might hear about their family, but the comedian usually doesn't bring their beautiful family on stage with them, right? And one of my favorite things too, she mentioned was how in America, when we're sad, we get into a tub full of drinkable water and just sit there. And of course she said it was smoother the way she said it, but it was pretty funny.
Oh, yeah.
And we do.
Guilty.
And I will again in my lifetime.
Guilty.
I will. Yeah.
Right.
And so we talk about occupational wellness, and with the things that have been difficult, it's helped me to stack it with laughter or lighter things. But also take baths and gratitude and things that we talk about, so that's what I've been thinking about this week with Zarna and that high note.
Is it the 1 in a billion special?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. I love comedy. Yeah. And it is one of my go-tos often.
I don't think I knew that, actually.
For that. Oh, yeah. Joe and I, it's one of the things Joe and I will watch together. Because I'm not a huge TV watcher. Right. I like to read. I love to read books. But he loves to watch movies and shows. And so it's one of the places that we intersect. That if, he's like, watch a show with me. I think I've said it on the podcast before, but during the pandemic especially, I watched more TV than I probably have in my lifetime. And I was watching reality TV shows where people make things, because watching people's dreams come true just lights me up, right?
Yeah,
and some of those contest shows, the glass blowers,
I
and
love
the
it.
Cake makers,
Blown
and
away,
right, and the makeup artists, and I probably watched them all during the pandemic.
Yeah, that was my
right?
stuff. Yeah, I watched TV too. I did.
Well, and especially when art's involved, right? I mean, I think about that as professions. I think about that as occupational wellness.
Yes.
we are lucky in the work that we do that we get to create art, right? With social media, with graphics. Like sometimes people are like, oh, social media. But one of my favorite things is like creating those things, right?
Yes.
Creating things that combine visual and music and the written word. And I think about that for me with occupational wellness.
Yeah.
It's got to have a flavor of art in it.
For me, it's got to have a flavor of, it's always been helping people and excellence, right? At the Wendy's drive-thru, excellence. Okay. It wasn't necessarily about helping people in college, right? But whether it's at Papado training, Topgolf training, all these different management and leadership positions, even though I was great in those systems and had the conversations based on the information they were supposed to get, it always leaned towards, okay, you're a nursing student. Do you have a planner? You know, making sure that they have what they need to be set up in the job and outside of the job so they can show up as their best. And so now when we talk about purpose, I'm super excited about being able to do Women Connected and the community that's open right now, right? Working on the volume 2 and looking at the amazing authors that we have. The stories are amazing and how they fall together. And like, again, Brandy and what was the woman's name from, was it Jessica from Miami?
Oh, Jessica. Yeah,
and Jessica.
Having a conversation with her this morning.
Yeah, like I love stuff like that. And then with Shaylo Glow being able to say that I'm on Auburn Avenue and doing a Sweet Auburn Fest and all these amazing things we get to do has been really exciting and fulfilling.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I know entrepreneurship or solopreneurship is not for everybody, right? Because if you like consistency and you like only doing one thing, not for you. And it's okay. Like I've had friends say to me, this is not for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things in life. Like I talk a lot with my coaching clients and things like that. It's that knowing yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's because one of the things I love is a lot of diversity and a lot of challenges and a lot of not everything. Like I get bored easy. That's part of my ADD, but I do get bored. And so a 9 to 5, where it was the same thing every day, wouldn't be my gig. Even when I worked in organizations and I worked, I always had roles that had a lot of, you got to be doing things. You got to be going where. You got to be, toot, 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 toot. And also speaking. Almost all my roles, you had to be speaking. And because, what's better than getting paid to talk?
If you're going to do it anyways, right? All the people who say, if you've been told that you talk too much, you're probably a speaker, an author. Okay, think about it. Just let it simmer. Tell us what happens. Yeah.
And I mean, I think about this other thing is I think about, because, we talk often about embodiment and being in your body and noticing. And a lot of times people are like, okay, that's such a catchword. What do you mean? Right. But part of it is, are you having fun? Like really noticing, do you enjoy going in to the place that you work at? Like, how does your body feel when you're in the space?
Yeah. Right? Are you anxious because somebody says, hey, can you meet on Thursday? What does that do? Does that, my time? Or is it, oh, absolutely, I would love to. Which one is it? Yeah.
What lights you up?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What lights you up? And what keeps you going, right?
Yeah. I always think about, what is it? It's the Jay-Z and the Kanye West song. And there's this part, and I think it's Will Ferrell. He's like, it keeps the people going. And I always think about that part when people say that. But I think that, and so you guys know, if you're listening to this, usually we have a guest. We're about 20 minutes in, right? It's just Christine and I. So you're hanging out with us today, and we're going to go a little bit deeper into this conversation about occupational wellness with you. And you said a couple of different things, Christine, right? You said entrepreneurs, you said solopreneurs. I want us to talk about partnerships, because we're not solopreneurs in Women Connected in Wisdom or Connected in Wisdom Press. And that is different than a lot of people, right?
Absolutely.
And then I want us to talk about more of what you mean when you say it's not for everybody. Like I know what I think about, but let's break down what that means. Because I feel like people struggle with the fact that they think it's too much. They think they're not enough.
Right.
They think they're not strong enough, and that it's not what those things mean.
No. I think it's just when I said it in that regard, I'll give you a good example. Joe is pretty risk adverse.
Okay.
He likes having a schedule. He likes having, well, that's not always true, but he likes having that paycheck coming in when it's payday, right?
Nice. Yes.
And so, like, he thinks about, like, would he ever do something with his art? Would he ever do? But he has really made the conscious decision, not yet. Like, I like working for somebody else, and I like, and he has a really cool job where he gets to make a lot of decisions, and he's not at a desk 9 to 5.
Right.
He's found kind of he gets to, he's out in the field. And so then he has a lot of change and dynamic, but he still gets a paycheck coming in, twice a month.
And time to himself. He doesn't have somebody constantly. Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So he found a job that was a really good match for him because when he first got out of college, he was a bench chemist and he was tied to the bench 9 to 5, got a 30 or 45-minute lunch break. And he was miserable in that job because he worked with the same group of people every day and he did the same task every day and he was really bored.
Got it.
So this new job, like he gets to meet almost a new person every day. Some of those relationships last over years, but he may not see them but once a month or every 3 months or every 6 months. So there's a lot of variety and there's travel and there's setting his schedule and, there's all kinds of freedom within the role.
Within the structure of it, right?
Within the structure. So I think with entrepreneurs, what you have to know, with solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and even partnerships, a lot of times, we have to build our own schedules. We have to build our schedule, which you are phenomenal at that, I must say, my friend.
Thank you so much.
You are.
Thank you.
You are. And I challenge the heck out of you with it. I know. I am an improver, and I like to go with the flow, and, but yeah, let's talk about that partnership piece, because I don't know that it's just if you're in business in partnership, but it could be in partnership and relationships. It could just be collaborations.
Right.
I was at the Alternate Roots weekend up in Whitakers, North Carolina.
Oh, did you know my last name used to be Whitaker?
No, I didn't know that. Look at that.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm listening to you.
No worries. So we're up there, and Amy McCoy, who is an incredible human being, she did this facilitated circle, and she asked these questions, and I wanted to bring them back to us, just you and I, but I love that we're having the conversation on air, and it's about occupational wellness. She asked the questions about what makes a good collaboration, which you could say, what makes a good partnership, right? What is your growing edge in collaboration? And I think she asked one other question. What are you looking for in collaboration?
Great questions. So when I think about it, I think a great collaboration is one across all of them is communication, right? Because we have to communicate from beginning to end throughout the process and when things change. And we know that happens all the time, right? I would say a great collaboration is also clear and gets the goal accomplished, right? Let's say we collaborate for a week or we collaborate for a podcast. It doesn't have to be long. If we were clear on what we were doing, we came, saw and conquered, then boom. Then I think that's a great collaboration, right? A growing edge is definitely the communication. I found that at both Topgolf and Papado, right? We have huge teams and the communication is actually more multi-layered and quicker than you think it is, right? And so now coming down into the partnerships with less people, I try to remind myself that, hey, you still need to be talking at certain intervals, right? To make sure that things are clear. So the growing edge is still communication. And I would say another growing edge for me personally is being able to see people's strengths and weaknesses, right? What are my strengths and weaknesses? What do I need to work on? What's right now? How do you prioritize that? And then when we're talking about collaboration, let's use an example of you or I together. What does Christine need to do? What is she amazing at? And then what can I do to make it most effective? And then be clear on that throughout the whole thing, I think is a growing edge, especially as we grow the teams in different places.
Right?
Yeah.
I think I'm always seeking in collaborations and partnership, like the joy and the fun. Like, where are those places that you can co-create and have fun and lift each other up and affirm and laugh Like
Mm-hmm.
I can't collaborate, or well, I have in the past, but I will not.
It's a standard, a new
It's
standard.
just like, right,
Yeah.
that I need somebody that has a sense of humor, and that if we need to take a little bit of a left turn for, you know, something that's funny, we can absolutely do it. So,
Yes. And just
that, oh, go ahead.
no, please go ahead, finish.
I was just thinking, and that we can laugh at ourselves,
Yeah.
like, and that we can laugh with each other,
Mm-hmm.
because I think no matter what projects you're doing or work or things like that, like that ability to laugh is so joyful to me.
Yeah. And for me, it's been adding joy in every workday, right? So right now with the schedule, part of the day might be Women Connected, part of it might be Shalo Glow. I want to feel joy in both of those situations, right? Not the whole time, and not that I try really strictly to include it, but definitely want to have it in there. I hear what you're saying.
Right. And for
Yeah.
those of y'all currently listening, if you're listening live, shout us a comment, put it in the chat or the comment section. What do you look for in a collaboration?
Mm-hmm.
What do you look for in a partnership? Today, we're talking about occupational wellness. And, you know, this is something that everybody I know has had good and bad experiences. Well, almost everybody I know has had a bad experience.
Mm-hmm.
I love to hear the good experiences too. But think back to grade school, or probably junior high or high school, and those group projects. Right?
It wasn't, yeah, no, it wasn't. The question, I thought you were going to talk about now. Now we do better, but we do better based on what they used to do at Kennesaw State. Okay, the foolishness.
Y'all, if you're just listening, if y'all could have seen Shannon's head whip around when I said that comment about group projects. I mean, but that's what the reaction of most people is to group projects, right? But I think that is the start of our fear of collaboration.
That's a great point. But I would love to break it down, right? Because I think that what I saw in my undergrad degree was in the class in my minor, and I do believe it was taught by Professor Benjamin. He was amazing. Shout out to Professor Benjamin. It was the closest to a monastery I had ever gone to, right? Which is self-led education. You get to choose what you're going to focus on. And then because that's how he led the class, that was the class that all of us read the most for. You know, if somebody was able to lead themselves in the motivation to get to the class, I think all the people involved in the project would be invested. But because you have these different levels of investment, you end up with the different levels of contribution, you know, and because of the way that the education system right now in America motivates students, we see how that works out in projects. You know, it's different on the entrepreneur side. If this person is in a business they love, you are in a business that you love, and we're able to be self-motivated and come together, that's when I feel like those joyous, you know, laughable, effective collaborations happen. If it's, hey, I'm doing this collaboration for my job, but I really don't care, or that social environment puts me in a certain position in mind space, headspace, and then I have to go somewhere else, that's where we start to see stuff kind of shift.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's also, I mean, it goes down to choice, right? Mm-hmm. I love how you said that, because in those group projects, there wasn't a lot of choice. You were assigned, right?
Yes.
Brandy, hello, Brandy Lee, says laughing is a great stress reliever and needed when working or partnering with others. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I am, and parenting too. Brandy is a parenting expert and an author about parenting. And yeah, it has saved my bacon and my kids' bacon multiple times.
Mm-hmm. I think it's important. I'm watching, so one of the things I do right now, I do watch more TV now than I used to. And that is in order to balance all the work that I'm doing, right? Learning things for 3 businesses, setting up systems, doing stuff for the first time, all of this stuff. Right now we're watching Dragon Ball Z, right? And one of the lessons that Kami has on his planet, when he's planning people after they pass away, when they're waiting to come back to the battlefield, right, is to have a joke. It is to laugh. And so, did I say the wrong person? Oh, I said Kami. Excuse me for the Dragon Ball Z experts, King Kai. So I love that they included that, you know, because a lot of the scenes can be really dramatic. You think about what are the important things when you go to war. I usually don't think about laughter, but through everything, just like rest, I feel like the joy and the inclusion of that is really resistance, and it's necessary.
Absolutely. And I love that you have a fact checker like on site right now.
Right.
Like
You see that? Collaboration.
Collaboration. I
Yes.
love it. I love
Yes.
it a lot. I think about,
Hey, y'all, this is a great place to take a break, take a deep breath, and hear from our awesome sponsors that make Women Connected in Wisdom podcast possible. Shannon, we are so grateful that Shayla Glow is the sponsor of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. And I wanted to take this moment to ask you, when you think about the people who use Shayla Glow, who are we talking about?
That's a good question. I think about 3 groups really. One, the group that's removing hair, right? So whether you're using laser hair removal, waxing, shaving, you got to make sure that you're putting back what you're taking out. The second group, I think about those with dry skin and the problems that that might cause, right? The scars, itching, burning, whatever the situation is, you definitely need all 3 steps, right? The exfoliation, making sure you're taking the dead skin cells off, the oil, putting in the moisture, and then the shea butter with the aloe, sealing it, helping you heal. Those things help both groups, right? And third, for the third group is those with chronic illness. You know, the story is personally from cancer and different diseases that our population is dealing with on a daily basis throughout families as individuals. So I'm thinking about my mom and my grandmother and those around me with the same generational ties, right? And what positive, healthy habits we can start to make sure that we're maintaining our wellness, especially because the skin is like the cape, the exterior, the shield for your immune system. So with COVID, we have to be intentional about covering ourselves. And those are the groups I think about.
I love it. And you know what else I love about your product? It's all natural, handmade, and it smells great, y'all. So
yes,
yay.
tested. Yes, esthetician tested and approved. Yes. What about you? When you think about your company, what groups of people do you think about?
Well, you know, I work with individual coaching clients, I work in community classes, and with corporate teams. And with all of them, I use a strength-based, embodied approach to help folks connect with themselves and access joy, reduce burnout, and build resilience. You know, especially during these times, I think we need it. I think we need all the hashtag partnership power we can get.
Yes.
You know, I think about the joys of collaboration. I think about the challenges of collaboration because, you know, people are human. Yeah. Like I was talking to somebody this week and they were talking about, people are just showing up with all their humanness, right? And we do. Like, I think about having grace for each other when that happens.
It's important.
But also, like we talk about in Stillpoint, about having boundaries, about saying yes or no, and what works for ourselves. And I think about all those things swirl when I think about collaboration and partnership, and I think about occupational wellness. Like what? Well, let's take it back to this.
Okay.
When you think about your favorite job, when you think about your favorite team, what were the factors that brought you that smile, that brought
winning.
You that winning?
Yes.
All right, say more.
Oh, because listen, I moved a lot, Christine, when I was growing up, right? And my dad did a great job at keeping me in the same school. And I said, if I were to ever transfer, I went to Hiram. There was only one other band I would be in, and that was Woodland at the time. They were magnificent. And so I like to win. And I said, if I went to another school, I'm not in band. I'm just not doing it. I'm not. And not to say that I have to be the winner. We have realistic expectations, things like that. But when you ask me which teams I was on, I always go back to band. And that was one of the things I loved about it. But we won because of our organization, because of the leadership that we were under, Dr. Davis at the time. And I do believe that he helped me be a great leader, so all of that plays a part. And then that's a group. And then if I'm talking about a job, I would really say Women Connected in Wisdom, because I feel like it blesses my heart. I love that with cancer being such a very important detail in my story, it doesn't always have to be about my very close relationship with other people who have had cancer. It can be about Shannon Ivy and her actual personal story and the story that she waited to share, and she trusted our platform and our book and our group of women to feel safe enough to share it. And I love that we were able to present that, Brandy Lee's, testimony. I love that. And when I went to TED Talk Atlanta. If you guys do not know, Christine was able to give me this ticket from her friend, and one of the speakers had this. It wasn't a speaker there. Yes.
I just want to say I didn't gift you the ticket. Andrea did. I just facilitated the connection.
Thank you.
So Andrea is one of our listeners and was at our conference last year, and she had just reached out and said, "Hey, I've got this extra ticket. Do you think anybody at Women Connected in Wisdom would want it?" And I was like, "Oh, I know somebody who'd want it."
Yes. And I had a great time. Thank you so much, Andrea. And if you don't listen to this, I need to email her. I'll email Andrea and tell her thank you. I had such a good time. Where were we? We were talking about, so they had put on the screen a TED Talk from another city, and this woman from New Orleans had made a chalkboard on the side of this building. It was a black chalkboard, and the tagline was, "Before I die, I want to blank." Right. So mine was, I want to create 100. I want to be able to help 100 women become authors. And we're getting there, right, with volume 2 and volume 3, and then narrators, and then the passive income from what we're doing. So the fact that I can have that as a goal and connect so many women from around the world with personal stories of victoriousness, right, but also sharing their resources that actually work to other people who need it, I will say this is my favorite job.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
When you think about groups or jobs, what do you think about?
Well, I think about the people.
Yeah.
And I think about the laughter, and I think about the connections, and I think about the affirmation, like the people seeing me and seeing and lifting me up. And I mean, and there were some hard jobs. Like, I mean, worked at a psychiatric hospital one time. That was not an easy job.
No,
one of the best teams I'd ever worked with. And it was about connections, right? I think about our work together. Like, we do a lot of work, and we have a really good time, right? So I think about all of that. I think, but the connections. And I mean, not shocking with us being Women Connected.
Like, we've really been doing this. That's why it made perfect sense. We might as well make an organization that does this, because we connect so many people anyways.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And being able to share resources just thrills me. Like, even something as simple as, hey, I know somebody that wants that,
Yes.
That just lights me up.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that is ridiculously fun.
What was the third question? So we talked about, what do you look for in collaboration? What is a successful collaboration, right? What was the third question that she asked?
What is your growing edge in collaboration?
Did we answer all of them?
You answered it about communication. Okay. I think my growing edge, and this is not, anybody who knows me is not going to be surprised by this one, is not doing too much. Like, I like you too, absolutely. Like, I like to do a lot of things. And I often don't realize I'm over capacity until I'm over capacity. Like, I'm kind of like, I need to run right at just too busy. It's the way my system works. But then there's a point where you tip off, where you're really ineffective. So I think my growing edge is recognizing that ahead of time, because I do know that's stressful for my collaborators, like, because I have a packed schedule. And so I think that's my piece, and just really knowing where that edge is.
Yeah. So I think that's a perfect segue into part of what we were talking about, right? So partnership, why entrepreneurship might be for people, this conversation that people have, right? Because I feel like it's almost it sounds like a have and have nots question, to own a business or to work for somebody else. And if you choose to not be an owner, you're lesser than. No, definitely not. Right. Because again,
you might actually have more money depending at what stage of the business you're in.
That's true. And it definitely depends on the stage. I think we should break it down, right? Because eventually it's not like that. But right now it might be like that. So I think that when I think about to be an entrepreneur or not, right? One, to be an employee, I need people on the team. I look forward to employees, right? Not everybody's going to be a business owner. Not everybody has to be responsible for all of the consideration. For example, when I stepped into management, right, from being a server, as a server, you think you know everything that the managers do. You think you can tell them how much they make and what they're not doing. And then you get to the management and you're like, oh, got it. And then as a floor manager, you think you know, and you think you can tell the servers about what managers do. And then in the kitchen, you end up as a kitchen manager, and it's like, oh, I had no idea, even still, And I really feel like that's life. As you step into the different levels or seasons, you realize that you can only understand to the limit of your perspective, right? And so sometimes that's a beautiful thing. Sometimes you just want to be the server and able to take care of these people, their food and their drinks, and not worry about all this inventory, right? Sometimes you just want to be the employee that can clock in and tell me what to do, please. What do you need for the next few hours? And I can go home. But instead, being a business owner, you have to worry about the product, right? Or the service. You have to worry about the legal, then you have to worry about the finances. Then the communication is not just something that we like to do. It's a whole part of the business, right? And then the team, of course. And so that's a lot when we're talking about past, just a little bit past too busy. How do we get there? Because there's only so many hours in a day, right? So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a solopreneur, you're working on and in your business. And then as a partner, we're working on and in our businesses, but now we have the opportunity, right, to balance the strengths and weaknesses and schedules and things that change. And consistently, what does that look like, especially as logistics change, right? You go from, again, Chalo Glow, making this stuff I still make it myself, but having this stuff in my trunk all the time and going to different places. We had the little containers that I bought at the hair store. They say it reminds them of Chinese food, right? With no label on it. That's how we started. Like not even ingredients list, no name.
I remember.
Right? And now we're labeled in a retail space. And so the logistics are different.
And to bring up that point, and we talk about it often in our classes, in our community, and with each other, you got to start. You got to start somewhere.
Yes, you do.
And oftentimes, I know with some of my clients and watching myself, like perfectionism often gets in the way, right? Mm-hmm. And if we can get over ourselves, right? And we want to produce high quality products. We want to produce, we want to strive for excellence.
Right.
And if you wait until everything's perfect, you may never start.
Mm-mm.
And so that's what I want to say and encouraging in any occupational wellness or partnership. If you have a dream or a vision, try it.
Yeah.
Start it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I think that's the difference, right? It's the line between I need to be more prepared, or there's things that I need to do, and mm-hmm. this doesn't feel right in my body. This is not what I should be doing. That's completely different, and being able to work through that. And when you try, that's when you find out, and you can quickly say, oh, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go over here. And that's also a healthy next step.
I also think when we're talking about collaborations and partnership, Brene Brown often says clarity is kindness.
Mm-hmm.
So be as clear as you can.
Yeah.
With yourself, your expectations,
mm-hmm.
what you need in a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think one of the things I love about our business partnership is that we can say, hey, this is what I really need.
Mm-hmm.
Or, if we check in with each other and we're scheduled for a 4-hour work session and we're down and out, we start with taking a break.
Yeah. Or we might not even do it. We might say, okay, I'll see you in 2 days.
We might reschedule, right?
Yes.
So being able to be body wise and check
mm-hmm.
in and communicate that, right?
Yeah.
In a culture that doesn't always appreciate it.
mm-hmm.
In a culture, because I was raised basically, unless, a limb is falling off and you have a bone or blood sticking out, you keep going.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which a lot of people were raised that way.
Definitely.
And it's, so that aspect of if you have the privilege and the choice
mm-hmm.
of setting your schedule or being able to check in with yourself or call in, if you've got some personal leave, to check in with yourself and make decisions from that place of your overall well-being.
Mm-hmm. And when we talk about rest as resistance, for me, it's not just, oh, I stepped into my businesses, now I have time. Even as an employee, even as a very busy person, mm-hmm. if we're not making it, that shows me that we're missing a part in the system. It's not, oh, we go to the next cycle of the system and we're doing our actions
Right.
again and we can skip
Right.
it, that means that we never completed the first one.
Before we jump off with occupational wellness,
Yes.
I want to give a shout out to all our teachers, especially Coach Co, who's one of our Women Connected in Wisdom.
Yes, Sati.
Sati, like all our listeners that are teachers, that are parents. I mean, parents, we're going to take a deep breath because you're about to go for it for summer, right?
Yes.
But our teachers, thank you for everything that you do. And I
Thank you so
know
much.
that this time of year, you know, if you're wrapping up grades, if you're wrapping up that last week of school, it can be a challenge. And it's right before you have a transition and hopefully get to have a break and rest.
Please.
Right?
Please rest. Yeah.
Right.
And again, that's what I've been thinking about. It's if it's everything is a circle. And after I get done with, again, I think about it as a cycle of tasks now, right? If I have not rested, then I never finish the cycle. I can never start again because it's not included, you know? So when we talk about maintaining our wellness and wisdom in action, you absolutely, I give you permission, right? If you want to write a permission slip, this is part of what I want us to do in the community. You have permission to rest in the middle of everything, right? To ask for what you need from the people that you're working for, and then see how that feels in your body and see what needs to happen next so we can be sustainable.
I love that. Pre-pandemic, when I did wellness retreats on the regular, I have permission slips. I have a form for us that when we do our Women Connected in Wisdom retreat next year in 2024, we will have those in everybody's goodie bags that they have permission, right? Absolutely. Well, speaking of wisdom in action, my friend, what are you thinking?
Occupational wellness. What am I doing? This week, I am working on standard operating procedures. I'm working on our second book, volume 2, right? Following up with our editors. And we also have the community open. So I will say, what I was thinking about with the systems was make the plan and then work the plan. So set it up and then see if it works.
I like it.
What about you?
I am doing a lot of marketing. And for a lot of programs that we have coming up, we have our community that's open, which we'll put a link to that in our show notes. I have an online Secrets of Interplay for Helping Professionals. I have an in-person Secrets of Interplay in Atlanta. I have the Playathon. Oh, I want to give that shout out. Like the Playathon is happening right now for Interplay. So there are, oh my gosh, like there every day, there's multiple offerings from people all over the world, and your first class is free. And then you can check into other classes. But I want to put that in the show notes and encourage people to check it out because it's so fun. And Marla Durden, who has been on our show before,
she has.
Who is a Women Connected in Wisdom, like superstar, she was the one that organized it. And so it's fabulous. And so I want to give, so all of that, my wisdom in action is to connect and communicate.
I love it.
Because I have a lot of really fun events and I need to tell folks about them.
And communicate. I love it. And I will change mine because I feel like it's kind of make the plan or, you know how we are about hashtags. I think I want to change it to hashtag connected in business. Yes, because that is right. The second tier of our community.
Right.
And, that's really what I feel like has helped me get here, whether it's the conversations with you, the conversations with Sino, my other business partner, conversations with Manifestation Mondays, and working through the challenges and the goals has been amazing. So yes, connecting in business.
I'm just so grateful, right?
Yeah.
I always get sad when our guests can't make it for a reason, just because I love meeting incredible people. And we want to give all good vibes and wishes to our guest who wasn't able to make it today. Kind of last minute thing going on. But I really enjoy just chatting and catching up with you and talking about occupational wellness, especially since we spend so much of our working life together.
Yeah, we do. It's been good.
Right?
Yes.
So for our listeners, we'd love to hear in the comments what you're working on for your wisdom in action this week. Give us a shout out. Check out the show notes. Check out the website, womenconnectedinwisdom.com. We'd love to have you join us and be connected and let us know what you need, what you're looking for.
Yes. And I want to go a little bit deeper in that too, while you talk about the community, because we say that every week, right? But this is different. We are officially open, and we were going to close it this week, but we actually decided to keep it open for you guys until June 4th. So it will close after that. If you've kind of been on the website and thinking about it, even for the past 2 years, you've been able to see different stuff. But so you know, it will be closing after June 4th. So if you want the support in the 8 dimensions of wellness, if you would like the support in business and in action, we have that available for you.
Speaking of June 4th, what's happening on June 4th?
Oh, so many things. So we're going to have a Women Connected in Wisdom book signing. This is for volume 1. So you can come and meet all those amazing authors. We may not have all 18, but we will let you know who will be there as we get our RSVPs. That's going to be at 228 Sweet Auburn Avenue. That's the Spark Lab that Shaylo Glow has our retail space in. And we're going to have a good time. We're going to have books. We're going to have wellness, different events. And that'll be from 3 to 5.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. And excited. I am super excited to be in that space with you and meeting folks. We hope you'll come by and join us if you're in the Atlanta area. And anything else we need to shout out before we're taking off?
Yes, I have one more thing for you guys, and we keep changing it. And we do this, like we said, we have realistic expectations, right? So we have space in the timeline for when things change. We said the door was closing to be an author in volume 2. It is still open. Okay, so if you have a story you want to share a resource, email us at Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. Actually, is it the CW?
They could do either. They could do CW Press at womenconnectedinwisdom.com.
Right. Or Women Connected in Wisdom podcast at gmail.com. And we'll get that to include you in the book if you have a story you would like to lift up. And again, volume 3 has about 35 people. So if it's not volume 2, we have space for you on volume 4, but the door is open if you would like to be included.
That's so awesome. Yes. I just love all the ways we're dancing through life right now.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Well, okay, ladies, thank you so much for joining us for episode 116 on Occupational Wellness. We'll see you live next week at 5. In the meantime, don't forget,
be well,
be wise, and be whole.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. On air live on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern via Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be part of the conversation and get connected at womenconnectedinwisdom.com.